Today on the Truth Be Told podcast, we're diving into the world of reality TV with a bit of a twist, where love isn't just blind, but sometimes the truth is equally hard to see. I'm lucky to be joined today first by Ashley Carpenter, one of the cast members of Love is Blind, who's here to break down what it's really like to try to find compatibility with someone when you can't see them. We're going to talk about the challenges of building trust, communicating honestly, and connecting emotionally in a situation where first impressions aren't visual, and then how those lessons can apply to all of us, whether it's in dating, relationships, or communicating effectively in your professional lives. Then, in the second half of the show, Paul Carpenter, Ashley's dad and a seasoned attorney, is going to join us. On the Netflix show, Paul meets Ashley's fiancé and puts his questioning skills to the test. We're going to have some laughs along the way, and you're going to hear maybe what the right answers should have been or could have sounded like. It's a fun, revealing conversation that blends reality TV drama with real life lessons on communication, relationships, and the power of asking the right questions. This might be the most fun I've had recording an episode yet, and I can't wait for you to join. This is the Truth Be Told podcast, where we unlock the secrets of strategic communication. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Truth Be Told podcast. I am Dave Thompson. I'm here with Ashley Carpenter from Love is Blind. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Does it feel weird to say from Love is Blind? Because you do so much else other than being on a show that you were recording for a few months.
Yeah, I mean, it's still wild to me. Now that it's finally out too, I think I was just playing this waiting game for a while. I filmed a year ago, and it's kind of that like surreal feeling where it's like, it's never going to come. It's never going to come. And then all of a sudden it's here, and it's been kind of like a whirlwind, and
I can
it's been
imagine.
insane, but it's
How is
fun.
how's life different for you now than before you went on the show?
So it just recently got a little different for me. I'm just going about my normal life, really. I'm one of the only women from Cleveland. Most of the girls are Columbus and a few from Cincinnati. So in Cleveland, I kind of just lived my normal life. And it wasn't until I was flying recently where there were people in the airport, like this TSA guy came up to me and was like, ma'am. And I was like, what? And they were like, come here. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? I don't have anything on me, I swear. He calls me over. He's like, were you on Love is Blind? And I was like, yes. And he's like, I knew it. And like all the TSA guys were going crazy. And that was like the weirdest for me. That was the first time I was recognized in the
Yeah.
airport. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is the change, I guess. And then slowly it's been a little bit more each day, but it's
Yeah.
been good. Just
Well,
normal.
I like that example because a lot of our listeners, as we were just talking about before we started recording, are investigators or people that have listened to a lot of our podcasts on true crime or interrogation techniques. And they're wondering like, why are we talking about this? And I was confessing before the recording that I've become obsessed with the show. And so have a lot of TSA agents apparently, but
Yeah.
because there's so much psychology of communication behind the scenes here. And of course the drama is fun for everybody to listen to and watch,
Mhm.
but to me, just fascinated by the communication aspect of all of this. And so if I just back up for a second, thinking about all that time that you were filming the show and then waiting for this to come out, that means you had like a big secret or secrets that you couldn't share with like anybody. How did that process go?
I am so bad at
Yeah.
well, you've met my father.
Right.
It's hard to lie to him. So I'm just not a good liar in general. And if people ask me questions, I'm usually like an open book. So it was really hard for me to keep this secret. Um, I mean, this ends in possible marriage. Like, is she married? Is she not? And I have to like keep that secret. And this is obviously the craziest thing I've ever done in my life and way outside my comfort zone. So I want to like scream from the rooftops, like, I'm doing this. It's so fun. And you can't. And now that it's here, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But
Did
I
people
kept the
know you
secret.
were going to go on the show? Like, could you at least disclose that? Or were you just MIA for a few months?
So I like kind of told people it's Ohio, so it's a small town, and they tell you we're filming in Ohio, like apply here. And everybody's like, you have to do it. And I'm like, all right, I'll apply. I went through like the info set, like they called me, did all the interviews, and I was like, there's no way they're gonna actually choose me. There's like thousands of applications. And I just kind of kept going through the steps in the process. And they called me like, I think 2 weeks before I was set to leave. And they're like, okay, you're going to be on this. And I was like, what? I'm like, how do I get fit in 3 days? Like, how do I get a new closet of clothes?
Right.
It's just that panic before. But it was just, I didn't really expect it. I took 3 weeks off of PTO or from work
Yeah.
just because I wasn't going to have a phone. I was kind of isolated. I couldn't work or anything. So I told my boss, like, I need these 3 weeks. The business, approved it. And I couldn't really say much. I could say, this was a dating show that I might be going on. But other than that, I couldn't disclose what it was called. I don't think I disclosed like the network it was on. So it was kind of weird, but
I can
I think
imagine.
everybody kind of knew.
Yeah, right. Well, and
Like it's
I gotta
uh,
imagine there's, like, so much, you have to be so vulnerable to do something like that. Is that, like, vulnerable meaning not only dating, right, having to talk to somebody one-on-one, but now having millions of people watch it, and probably more importantly, friends and family? So, like, what was that mindset before you got on the show?
Yeah, I think I thought about it obviously a lot. But I was going in there open to anything. Like if I make a connection, I make a connection. If I make 16 new girlfriends and that's all I get from it, that's great. If I learn something about myself, that's great. So being open, I had to kind of think about what do I want to share with these 16 strangers or, whoever I was dating at the time. And, how is this going to represent me and my family? Like, I think I was mostly nervous. Like, I don't want my family to ever be embarrassed by me.
Right,
Um, but I want to make sure, like, I'm there for the right reasons. I'm trying to find a possible husband. I want to make sure, like, our morals, our values, ethics, all of those things kind of add up. So, you kind of figure out throughout the process, I guess, kind of eliminate people. And, the longer the dates become, the less people you're dating, the more you feel open to share deeper stories or going into those memories that you don't share really with anyone. So I guess you get comfortable. It's crazy to think like you get comfortable in this little pod, basically closet. But it started to feel like home. You get used to these voices and you just naturally forget the cameras are there and open up. And it's kind of crazy.
yeah,
The production team does a great job of making you feel comfortable and safe in that space. So I guess it's
yeah.
just based off of that.
Well, so for our listeners that at least don't want to admit that they've been watching the show because most of them have. So the premise here is in the beginning, right? You're in these pods where you're not able to actually see the people that you're screening. I'll use the term to determine if this is
Mhm.
like a match or somebody you want to explore further. How long is that process that you're maybe engaging with people before you have a chance to pick somebody?
Yeah, it's honestly wild because I thought it was 2 weeks. However, it's more like 9 days. So the first day you get there, you are dating 16 men, and it's a speed dating kind of thing. It's you talk to them for 9 to 10 minutes each, and then they give you a piece of paper and they're like, go through the list of people and give me your top 8. And I'm like, what? I don't remember like half these guys'
Right.
names.
Right.
So you really have to like make sure you're taking notes. Some people had strategies, like I'm gonna ask these questions, and I was just sitting there like, I'm gonna go off vibes. Like I didn't know what to ask. It's 9 minutes. And so then you get your 8 and you have longer dates the next day. And then you cut it down to 6 or something and it's longer dates there. So it is just kind of crazy. Thinking back to it. And the communication aspect is really interesting because I get a lot of my behaviors and like what I use to read people from my dad. So I use like those micro expressions. I use the body language. Like, are they pacing? Are they twitching and like twiddling their thumbs? Do they make eye contact with me? So that's all taken away when I'm in the pods. So I really have to go off of, do I trust this voice? Do they have
Right.
confidence in their voice and what they're saying? And that's kind of what I had to base everything off. And that's what I found in Alex. And, when he would tell me these stories, it was a beautiful picture. It was almost everything I wanted to hear, almost too perfect. Um, it almost seemed like, and my dad says it too, it seems rehearsed. And, I'm like, it's like Chat GPT answering my questions. And then he kind of goes into The Alchemist. If you are watching, it is like a crazy thing that he brings up. And throughout the process, you kind of see like my communication with him kind of changes, and I start to see like little differences in that. So I guess that I feel like
Yeah.
I didn't answer. What was the question? What was
No,
the
that
initial
was a
question?
perfect answer because,
Okay, I was like,
um,
wait a minute.
no, I asked about like just to give our listeners some context, but that was really helpful because
Oh,
um, trying to understand if somebody's being not just truthful, right, but compatible, because you're not sitting there trying to identify is this a liar or not, right? That's not the goal. The goal is this person compatible and somebody I feel safe with and have a
yes,
future with, and but you're not able to see somebody, and so
yes.
uh, a couple different things. Let me ask about for you because you've got some facial reactions in the show.
I don't
Where
hide those very well.
right there. But do you feel like that made it easier or more difficult to communicate that you didn't have to worry about your physical response to somebody's statement or question?
I didn't have to worry about it,
Yeah,
or he
because
didn't have to worry.
that's also true. Yeah, that's that's fair. Yeah.
um, Yeah, like I'm a very honest person, and me and my dad always have this conversation. We always like to ask people like, "Are you a good person or are you a nice person?" And we always like to say, "We're good people. We are going to tell you the truth, no matter like what you feel you need to hear. We want the honest answer. Whatever you need, we want to give that to you. We don't want to tell you what you want to hear." And when it came to my interactions with Alex, yeah, my facials, I don't hide anything,
Right.
and I don't think I did that even in the pods, like, if something was off, the cameras just didn't show it, but I'd probably be like, "Mm, what?"
Yeah.
But in person, I kind of say Alex is a magician in the weirdest way. When he speaks, he says a lot of words and tries to, like, go in circles, almost distracting me. He uses the hand motions, he gives the facials to distract me from what he's really doing, which is lying,
Right.
and
At
out of
least
the
nomadically speaking, he's lying.
Nomadically, realistically, to be honest, whatever else, whatever big words he could throw in there. And unfortunately, like, not to say he met his match with me, but he met his match with my dad for sure. Um, but it was just like, why are you lying? You
Yeah.
told me all these things in the pods. You built this beautiful picture of a life we could have together, of this like almost romance that we had because we were from Cleveland. And in The Alchemist, everything he wanted was right under his nose. And then it all just became lies. And like you can see me kind of switch gears. And I'm like, so what are you? Who are you? And in the end, some people are like, well, he didn't really lie about anything big. But what they don't show in the pods is like he did create this fantasy in my brain to be that man that I want and that life that I want. And then all of a sudden, I find out that it's not real. And that is, to me, a big lie. If I'm marrying this person, it's not my boyfriend. I'm marrying this person. If we are creating this foundation on lies, that is a terrible foundation for a marriage. And I just don't stand for it. My non negotiables were lying and cheating. And I don't even understand why he was lying to me. I'm a very understanding person. I even tell him, like, come to me. If you've messed up, if you told me something wrong, I'm going to be very understanding. Um, and unfortunately, when I find out from other people, I'm not as understanding as I think a lot of people are not. So that was my biggest thing with Alex. I was just like,
Yeah.
why are you lying?
There's a couple good clips where you demonstrate that, and I know we're probably seeing 5% of all the conversation that actually is happening, but there's one time where you said almost exactly that, like, "Hey, if
Mhm.
something happened, just tell me about it," and trying to create and to kinda connect this to our listeners, you're creating this safe space. If you're not saying, "Hey, if you lied to me, it's okay," but at least create an opportunity to talk about something negative that could have happened. And then the
Right.
other thing I thought was interesting, you guys were arguing about something, ridiculous, not from your
I'm
perspective,
sure.
where he was all over the place, but you're sitting, like, at a dining room table, kitchen table, and then
Mhm.
you walked away. And I think this is when you talked about having a shared tracker, which we don't even have to get into, but
Yes, please no.
when no, but when you walked back, you actually were the first person to say, I can be better. I'm gonna be aware of this in my behavior," and I'm assuming looking for reciprocal behavior there. But with both of those things, like, anything you've learned in your life, maybe even from your upbringing, but how to create a safe space for somebody to tell you something that may not be comfortable to share?
Yes, I probably learned that from the many times I tried to hide things from my father, and he said, if you were just honest up front. And now it's finally clicking. Um, No, I think it's just like I'm much more logical and analytical, and when it comes to my relationships, I lead with that rather than, like, my emotions. And, when you're out and you're at a bar and there's alcohol involved, I always wanna have my partner's back. I always want to show respect for them, especially in public. And in that moment, I'm just like, "This is so disrespectful to me," and he literally admits to lying to my face, but then still somehow goes into how he's not a liar, and it was just craziness to me. Like, watching it back, I'm like, "What was I thinking?"
Yeah.
Um, Truly, and people think I question him a lot, and I'm like, I'm questioning him because every time he opens his mouth, his story is changing, and again, this is going to be my husband. So, yeah, when something changes, I'm gonna ask more questions, but I think that's what it is for me. I'm much more logical. I'm very understanding. I'm not perfect, and I understand a relationship is not always 50-50. Like, sometimes I'm gonna be at a 20% and they're gonna have to give 80 and vice versa. And if that's not there, if that understanding's not there, then I don't think it really will work. And you have to have that level of respect. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. But if I do make that mistake, I'm going to own it. And I'm going to put in the work to fix whatever might be going on in our relationship. I am a fighter. I'll put everything I have into my relationship until I've exhausted my resources and there's nothing left. But that's just how I was. I see it in my parents every single day. They've been an amazing role model relationship to just have growing up. They complement each other very well. It's not the opposites attract. It's, my dad has strengths here and my mom has the strengths in other areas. And seeing that come together, it's just beautiful. And I'm so blessed to have that as, who raised me.
Yeah. Yeah, a model is helpful, right? So you can see that lived experience. You
Yes.
you mentioned the kind of emotional takeover. So I'm curious, like when you're watching the show now
Mhm.
and you're looking in hindsight, and of course you're only seeing the highlights, you know a lot more than what everybody else is seeing. But can you identify, like, can you put yourself back in the moment, either creating excuses or allowing your boundaries to go further than you normally would have versus now you're looking back thinking like, what was I thinking? What do you have that
Yeah.
disconnect?
Yeah, it's actually crazy and it's one of my favorite parts of this whole experiment. I was in a very toxic relationship for about 5 years, and being inside something, it's very hard to take different perspectives. My friends and my families, they were coming to me saying like, "You've gotta leave this guy," and I held on, and it's very much like that like trauma bonding a little bit, very manipulative, and, I would try to leave, and he would pull me back in, and I thought I was, like, fully healed from all of that, and then when I watch these scenes back, I almost very clearly, I can identify where I was kind of going back into those old habits. Because you see us have a conversation, I am acknowledging and identifying the red flags, and then another moment later, he's like, "Let's get chicken nuggets," and I'm like, "Okay."
Mhm.
It's like a blank, slate again, and those are definitely
With buffalo
old
sauce, by
habits.
the way.
With buffalo,
Just
yes,
I want the right because people that listen to this know that I'm a buffalo guy, so I think it's important that
oh
buffalo
my
sauce
god,
is
buffalo's the best.
yes.
But yeah, like I definitely saw in that moment, I'm like, "That's old Ashley." Like, you know better. And again, this is a crazy experiment. I have cameras all over me. Like, yeah, I kinda slid back into those old ways, but you know better. And I think that's the biggest thing I've kind of gotten out of this experiment is like, I know what I deserve. I will not stand for anything less. And that's what I take away, but it is nice to see it back because it was kind of like this empowering story, like, I get my shine back, and that was kind of taken from me. Even in my last relationship, everybody kind of just saw me as this shell. I was this people pleaser, always trying to, like, spread myself too thin, avoid conflict, and that's what I do in those moments filming, and now it's just like, "No, I'm not standing for that." So,
Well, and not that
no
you
way.
need any validation, but I gotta imagine since the show has aired, you're probably getting quite a lot of support, in what your experience was with him
Yeah.
on the show.
It was honestly so, like, I have a wedding. I don't think that's a spoiler,
Right,
um, because it's on Netflix, like, the whole thing
right.
was on Netflix, but, um, that was, like, the best day for me of this whole thing, um, because I had this, like, moment where I'm very emotional this whole day, first of all, and before I go to the altar. I'm very emotional. My friends are there, my family's coming in, and it's very beautiful to just see, like, the army of support that I have. These people have traveled. It was on, like, a Tuesday, and they have traveled to come and support me in whatever decision I was gonna make that day, and I don't think a lot of people, like, really realize that. Like, you have your family and your friends, you think they're always gonna be there, but to see them all, like, come together is very emotional for me. Um, and then I get up on the altar and I'm, like, stoic,
Yeah.
and I don't even miss a beat, I'm not emotional, no tears, and at that moment, I was like, "That was business." I was like, he had a chance to have this emotional, vulnerable Ashley, and he no longer deserves that. This is me standing on business, doing what I need to do, and saying my piece, and it was just, like, a beautiful day for me.
Yeah, I love that for you. That's great. When you said when you just said that, like, this is business, and you're standing on it, I'm wondering if there's a time, maybe it's early in the pods where, it's an experiment, as you said, it's probably overwhelming, 9 days and a lot of people to talk to. Is there ever a moment where you were like, this goes from this is being fun to, "Hey, this, like, really matters, like, this is
Yeah.
reality."
It was really crazy. For me, my dad's a divorce attorney. Like, I was honestly, like, nervous my dad was gonna ground me even when I brought it up. He was, like, the last person I told. I was like, "Dad's gonna ground me, I'm not gonna go." But he was so supportive. But, again, my logical brain, I'm like, "There's no chance." And then you get there and you are isolated from literally everything. Like, I couldn't even watch the Weather Channel. I didn't even have a clock to tell time. I told time by the sun. Like, if the sun was out, I was like afternoon. If it was down, I was like nighttime. But it is just crazy because if you put in the work, this does work. This experiment does work. We've seen it from previous seasons. So I think if people are there for the right reason and they find someone that they really connect with, this will work. If you are ready to have those hard conversations, talk about everything under the sun in those 9-ish days, then this could work for you. And if your match isn't there, your match isn't there. But it's the people that go there for the wrong reasons and, they try to manipulate and game the system and it doesn't work. But I remember being like, what's happening? Like, no, this isn't really happening. Like, I was very excited and, like, I got engaged and I was like, this is wild. I was the biggest skeptic. I even say it like in my interviews. I'm like, I was the biggest skeptic. There was no way this is going to work. And somehow I'm falling for this guy, this voice behind this orange wall. So it was like crazy, but I do think it works. If you are there for the right reasons and the other person is as well, I think it definitely works.
Works is, the operable word here, though, because works doesn't necessarily mean you have to end up with somebody. Works can mean
Yeah.
you learn something in the process, or all of us ridiculous listeners learn or watchers learn something in the process as well. So, from that aspect, when like you said, you get the call to be on the show and you're like, "Oh my god, this is gonna
Mhm.
happen," and you're worried about, "What am I gonna look the way I wanna look? Am I ready to go
Yeah.
for this?" What about communication strategy? Like, did you have as you're meeting people, maybe for the second or third time, did you have like, here's the questions I want to ask? I want to make sure I talk about politics and religion and career and family, or like, did you have
Yeah.
categories? Do you have questions? What was that thought process like?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. I didn't know this, even though I've watched previous seasons, but you go in each day and the creator actually comes out and talks to you and kind of gives you like this little spiel about what the day is going to be about. So it's either like family life, politics, finances, whatever else. So you do get like a set list of questions, which does help you because you're in the pods sometimes for like 5 hours on one day. So it is nice that they provide those questions, and then from there, I just kind of wherever the conversation took me, I let it go that way. But yeah, you do talk about all those things. You talk about debt, you talk about children if you want children, religion, intimacy. You have all these days to kind of go through those big topics in relationships, and wherever you want to take it, you can take it.
Yeah. We talked a lot of our interviewers, we talk about this concept called cognitive load. And that's like how much you're processing at one time. And so if you're conducting an investigative interview or your father is conducting a deposition of some sort, which we'll talk to him shortly.
Yeah.
But there's a lot you're thinking about, like, what am I gonna ask next? Or what am I having for dinner tonight? Or what did they say that contradicts? And so I'm wondering how much of that, like how much exhaustion, mental exhaustion do you have as you're talking to so many people, trying to take notes, probably worried about how's this gonna look on camera at some point when this comes out,
Hmm.
that you're not fully present in the conversation because you're somewhere else. Did you find yourself in that position or find any tricks to like stay present and engaged?
Yes, sleep as much as I can. Um, no, so we actually during the day, you would have your normal dates, and then they also had night dating, and I was exhausted. I'm like a not a night owl. I like to be in bed by, like, 9:30 in my jammies, maybe watch something or read something, and these night dates would go to, like, 2 or 3 AM, and there was a couple nights where I was like, "I'm not showing up as, like, who I need to be." Like, I don't wanna half-ass this, if I'm being honest, like, I want to make sure I'm showing up the way I want that person to, like, have their thoughts of me. I don't want to be, like, half asleep or I was so tired, I was, like, nauseous, so I was like, "I gotta go, get some sleep, come back refreshed, and give you 110% like I want to." So I think that was the biggest thing. A lot of the girls would, like, reflect a lot of the day. So you'd either be, like, in the corner, like, taking notes or just reflecting on your dates. I actually loved the lounge, like, talking with the other girls really helped to just kind of give light to the situation. Like, there's a lot of heartbreak, people are getting broken up with, people are going home. So it does make it a little lighter and they just kind of uplift you when you need to. But again, they might be dating the same person as you. So it is kind of like a game of strategy. You don't want to show all your cards and, tell everyone like who your number one is because they might be like, I'm dating him. And I'm like, no, you're not. Um, so I think that was the biggest thing, but just going home and, like, reflecting, I thought about my family so much that that's a huge part of who I am, obviously. I have an amazing relationship with them, so I thought a lot about, like, what are my parents gonna think? Because after my last relationship, I was like, "I'm gonna listen to my friends and my family," and then I go into this crazy experiment where they're
Right.
taken away, everything's taken away, and I'm like, "What am I doing?" So I tried to think about, what are they gonna say? Like, what would they think if, they heard that answer to that question or things like that, and they help keep me grounded,
Right.
remember who I am, but it is a lot, I'm not gonna lie, it was like psychological warfare almost, it's like you're isolated, you can't talk about anything, it's like, "Okay." How do I
Did you
manage this?
you see a lot of it seems like friendships you guys develop on the show with like the girls with each other and the guys with each other.
Mhm.
Does that maintain afterwards?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm good with all of the girls. It's there's gonna be drama. It's a dating show.
Right.
But I think like for me, if I have drama or any issues with people, I want to have that conversation. I'm very open about it and like, hey, let's figure out how to fix this. Um, and I've done that with all the girls. So I'm good with all the girls. Like we have different views. We want different things in relationships.
Sure.
And I think it's just important to remember like we were all in this crazy experiment that not a lot of people experience in their lifetime. And I think that kind of keeps us close. Like we all understand like what's it like going through that and now that it's out and like the social media, the comments and everything. So I think it's just important to have that almost sisterhood with you and just take it with you.
Especially when you, I think, have a couple of common villains maybe on the show, makes it easy for bonding, perhaps?
Yes, on the men's side, not on the girls. Like I don't think we really have any
No.
villains.
No, I don't
Um,
think
but
but
yes,
I'm like,
yes.
I'm waiting for like a group, Pilates picture to support Jess and, Chris and I. That's what I'm waiting. If Jess is
Yeah.
listening, to support you on this
Yeah.
podcast as well.
I, like, just started doing Pilates too, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
wait,
Yeah,
don't tell
right.
anyone. Like, I don't
Right.
need any Chris's coming my way."
Right. So
Uh-huh.
as the show advances, and we're gonna bring your dad on in a few minutes, but
Yeah.
before we do that, so you've lived a life with your family, obviously, and your dad, I'm sure, had other significant others come across, this screening process. So how much of I guess, of a heads up, or what did you inform Alex of before meeting your family? What's that look like?
I I'm very open. I'm just like my dad. Like, I'm I'm the same way. I ask a ton of questions, and if I feel like you're lying, I'm gonna ask more questions. So I kind of told him that. I was like, "He's a divorce attorney, not gonna lie. He is gonna have questions. He is gonna have hard questions. He was paid for 40 years to ask the questions no one wants to ask, and he's really good at it, and he's really good at reading people. Um, and I think Alex, like, wasn't expecting that, and I was like, I try to be as open as I could. And, my dad was my dad, and I think if I brought in a guy, any guy, and he was answering the questions the same way, he would have the same response. There was, like, a few questions that weren't really shown, and he answered them, like, not the best. And
Mhm.
I think those were some of the first questions my dad asks, and that kind of sets the mood. He comes in, he warms them up, and he, like, shoots the shit a little bit. He asks about golf, he asks about, like, what's he interested in, and then all of a sudden he's like, "What have you learned about Ashley?" And, if he would have answered them a little bit differently, my dad might have been not as
Sure.
crazy with the questions, but that's my dad, and people need to keep in mind this was a 2-hour dinner. We did have other discussions. We told a lot of stories about my brother. My brother's hilarious. My mom, she also like, people are like, "Your mom and you didn't speak. Like, are women allowed to speak in your family?" I'm like, "Yeah, I literally couldn't speak because I haven't seen or talked to my family in 4 weeks." I was like, I'm so excited to see them. I was very emotional. Um, so yeah, it was a 2-hour dinner broken into 5 minutes. Of course, other people spoke, and it
Sure.
wasn't just my dad grilling him, but that's my dad.
Well,
And you either love him or you hate him.
I loved it. I had a great time talking with your dad. We're going to talk to him more here in just a minute. Before we
Perfect.
do that, I'm curious for you, like post show.
Mhm.
Um, do you feel like this has changed how you interact with people today, or if you like go back and attempt to date people now, like did that experiment change the way that you're engaging with people today?
Yeah, I think this show, an experiment mixed with my past relationship, it's just like, I know what I deserve, and I'm not gonna settle for that. Like, you don't need to settle. Um, I kind of say it in the show a lot, like, I'm not dating potential, I'm not gonna marry potential. And I kind of look at my relationships now like, I want a cozy fireplace. I don't want the fireworks. I don't want any, like, stressful feelings. Like, yes, I wanna have adventures with my partner and everything like that, but I wanna come home and I wanna have a conversation with my husband, my boyfriend, whoever, and be, like, safe, secure, just stable.
Yeah.
And I want that. It's a cozy fireplace to me. That's the easiest way I can put it into words when I ask them a question. They give me an honest and direct answer, and I don't have to ask more questions. It doesn't make my, like, stomach curdle or anything. It's like, "Oh, that was honest." And I believe that with my whole heart and my brain, because
Yeah.
sometimes I disagree. But
Yeah.
that's what I want in my relationship. I want that cozy fireplace.
Yeah, I love that. I think, like you said, the experiment works. It still worked, right? I mean, you still
That's it, yeah.
identify and grown through that
Mhm.
process. Last question before we bring on the true star of the show. Why does Alex need a safe house in New Zealand?
Listen, I don't know where that came from. We didn't talk about that in the pods. We didn't talk about it in real life. I have no idea. When he said trust in Dubai and a safe house, I was like, are we on the run from the government? Are you Anna Delvey? Like, who am
Right.
I, like, sleeping next to? It was a wild
Yeah.
statement, to say the least. But
Is
I don't know if you caught it either. It was like, Ashley's great, but when I think about my life, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
there was
I
a
know.
little bit of a giveaway.
Yeah. So that part, listening to the word "but," there was a lot of words, and this is what I think we'll talk to you and your dad about, but there's a lot of when somebody's not being fully honest or truthful, they use these qualifiers where not everybody pays attention to those. But we're gonna bring on a resident expert here in
Yeah.
just a minute to talk about that. So any last word now that your whole life is on camera anyway, any last words before we bring your dad on and your experience here?
No, let's get him out here. He's
Yep.
ready.
Yeah, let's bring Paul on the show. Well, now we're bringing on the true star of the show. I mean, Ashley, we all love you, and so did the whole all of America. But, um, Paul, before I really introduce you, I just have to read some quotes that I found from looking at social media because, I mean, there's so much on here, but here we have talking specifically about a scene on the show where you're taking a deposition, I'll say, of Alex during dinner, but we've got Alex talks way too much. This was especially my favorite scene. Paul asks all the right questions. I love that dad. I love him. This was a deposition. I want to use this as a model when my kid goes to college. This is a deposition. He wasn't even sworn in. Wish I had Ashley's dad. I love this job interview. Please let him host the reunion. The way he had him sweating. Can I hire Alex's dad to interview the guys I'm dating? Dad goals with a bunch of hearts. He always have a follow up to catch him in the right dishonesty. And lastly, can we all hire him as a dad? And can he question couples at the reunion? He needs to be a guest host.
Oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Carpenter is with us today.
ah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for having both Ashley and I on your show. This is really an honor for us. I mean, we're just normal people,
I was
you know?
actually shocked you wanted me as well. I was like, "Wait, it was you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're honored to be
Yeah.
on here,
Well, thank you
frankly.
guys for being willing to do that. I mean, there's so much we talked a little bit earlier, drama obviously associated with some like pop culture and what's going on in the show. But for me, and Paul, when you and I talked, like I'm just fascinated by the behind the scenes communication and what this looks like. And between the both of you, like you've got a little mini attorney here with Ashley. Like she was taking depositions throughout as well. So I guess my first question is when she tells you I'm going to be on the show, whatever information she was to give you, what's going through your head of what's about to be on camera live for all of America to see?
You mean when she first asked me, for permission to go on the show? I was 100% behind it.
I love it.
100%. First of all, for any parent out there, um, our greatest job is more than anything, teach your children how to make decisions. If you teach your kids how to make a decision, you don't have to worry about them generally. I taught Ashley how to make decisions. I was completely trusting of her ability to do this show, look good, and not bring us down
Yeah, I love that. Now,
completely.
you did say on the show that she's a bad picker, I believe.
Ha! She has a bad picker.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
She goes for the quarterback
Yeah.
every time. I say quarterback in air quotes because she likes the good-looking men that probably spend too much time in the mirror and less time on what she feels.
Yeah. So was there any preparation other than like, we trust you, go do your thing, or was there a little bit of attorney-client privilege here before Ashley hops on the show?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember doing anything like that. I just turned her loose and sent her in a direction, and she did the rest, and she did it well.
So tell me a little bit more about your background. I know you and I talked, but you got over 40 years in the law field and in a
Yep.
couple of different positions. So maybe just a little bit about your kind of experience and background there.
So I started practicing law in 1982. Back in 1982, most lawyers had, a lot of lawyers anyways, had a general practice. Law wasn't as sophisticated as it is now, where everybody is in a particular field or their expertise in a certain field. I sort of, through the years, gravitated to domestic relations, family law, did divorce work for the most part, but I also did municipal law. And as a part of that, along with doing zoning meetings and council meetings, I would do prosecution too. After I retired from that job, from the municipal side, I continued with the domestic side. But then I was asked to be a part-time magistrate in a local municipal court, in which I did. And I think the reason why they asked me, what was stated to me is, I could look through things. I could make a judgment after full disclosure of things. I had a way of getting that information out from people. And I thought that was a great honor to be asked to do such a honorable profession,
Sure.
judging people.
Sure. Ashley, I was sharing with your dad the other day. My grandfather was a judge. And so I kind of grew up in this same thing as there's like two sides to every story. However, you're going to get questioned about everything. Nothing just flies. So what was it like growing up in this space? Were you the recipient of some of these questions at some point?
Well, first of all, you only had 2 sides to the story. There's
Right.
3 sides.
That's
There's, like,
true.
his, hers, and the truth.
That's true.
Um, no, I think I kinda mentioned it earlier, I, um I tried to hide things. I was a kid, you get in trouble. And I think I finally learned, like, you have to live your life with integrity. And, when people are dishonest to me now, I understand where he was coming from. Doesn't feel good. Um, and I just don't stand for it. If you're going to lie to me about little things, then you're most likely going to lie about big things. And yeah, it might have taken me a little longer to learn that growing up, but I could never get anything past him. He's like, I mean, he's him. He asks you all the questions. He could literally just say, Ashley Nicole. And I'd be like, I did it. I'm sorry. And that was that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important to know that, you can be wealthy, you can be in poverty, but when we're all done, you're left with one thing, and that is your integrity. People will remember that about you. And my children are never punished for anything but dishonesty.
Yeah. Well,
That's
and
it.
that I think that's great. That comes out Ashley and I talked about this a little earlier. I mean, she basically states that to, our star soccer player here when she says, "Just tell me, right? If something happened, just tell me about it." It's almost this premise of like, even if something bad happened, be honest about it. Was that
Yep.
something that I'm assuming you ingrained in the
Absolutely.
child?
Well, hopefully I taught that. Whether
Yes.
they learned it
Right.
is up to them.
Right. One of these statements, and Ashley, you said this one earlier, actually, but I wrote this down yesterday watching the preparation for this episode has been fantastic. Netflix loves me because I'm just watching episodes over and over again. But you said you say a lot of words sometimes, and sometimes it just has nothing to it.
Mhm.
So when Paul, when you're watching these shows back, the clips back, and I'm sure you guys have talked about all these interactions off camera, but
Oh, yeah. He's retired.
yeah,
He's got nothing better to do than
I'm
watch
sure.
himself.
I'm
Hey.
I'm
sure.
just kidding.
But when you're watching Ashley, are you thinking like, "Yeah, good job, girl. That's the way you should ask those questions," or "That sounds like me asking those questions." Have you had any of those moments?
Absolutely. Almost every interaction that she has with Alex, um, it feels like, "Oh, this girl learned something." And
Yeah,
I'm super proud of her. Both, my wife and I are really proud of the way I told you this the other day, that she entered this process in the front door, and she came out the back door a stronger and better person.
yeah. We
And
talked
and
a
I
little bit about that because I think, she said the experiment works is what we shared a little bit earlier, and I thought like works doesn't necessarily mean you have to end up with somebody. It could mean like you grew at some capacity as a person.
absolutely.
So, and or created a spotlight for your father to become famous. Both are different ways.
That was my whole purpose for the show.
I
Right,
saw this coming.
right.
I pushed her, "Come on, make me
Yeah.
famous, honey."
Yeah. So before this kind of famous, dinner scene, what kind of off-camera, if any, interaction did you guys have about, like, here were you prepped at all about, "Here's who you sure you're gonna meet," or, "Here's some things, like, here's some questions I have about him," or was there any preparation there, or was it as natural as it looked like on,
The
uh
entire preparation consisted of a phone call from her, and she said, "Hey, Dad, um, 1 and 1 doesn't necessarily always add up to 2 with this guy in my mind. Would you just be Dad?" And that was it. That was my signal to be the attorney.
I love so you called in the big guns here is what you did,
I
which is
said
good.
I said, "Be you." And
Yeah,
that's all I needed. And like I said, like, if Alex would have answered questions in a different way, his questioning may have been different. His answers were setting the mood for the next questions that my dad was gonna ask. And, he's like a shark. If there's blood in the water, he's gonna go for it. And
yeah,
something's off is the same thing with me. I mean, I get it from him. He's the model here. But if something is off, we're gonna ask more questions. And then if it continues to keep changing, then we have an issue.
yeah. That's great. When you Paul, when you walked into the conversation, did you feel like you had a list of here's the flow of questions I wanna ask, or is that just organically kinda came from what you wanted to get into?
So, and like most people that prepare for, I've been to trial before. Things
Right.
don't always go according to your script. The person, says something that is going to be later on and you have to adapt, right? So, I had a couple of things that I wanted to ask him. I had the first question. That's about it. I had
Right.
the very first question that I wanted to ask him, and I knew it was not going to be an easy question.
Yeah,
It could have been an easy question, but I knew for him it was not going to be an easy question. And from there, it pretty much flowed just the way you saw it on there. I mean, uh, it just, he would give me an answer, which made me question that answer.
yeah.
And it was all organic. Most of it was organic. I
Well,
did
that's
do some prep, but
yeah,
very little. The only question I really had in my mind was the very first one. If he'd answered that well, it would have gone better for him.
was the very first question the "What have you learned about Ashley?" question?
Yes, it was.
What
And
was the answer you're looking for there?
She's a what I was looking for? Oh my goodness, she puts everyone first, something about her personality. Not that she's a big time salesperson. I don't know if I can say what it is,
Yeah,
but
he answered, with what I do for a living, and
Sure.
it wasn't even the correct job, so I was like, "That's not even what I do for a living." I was like at that point, I was like, "He could have said I was blonde, and that would have been a
a
better
better
answer,"
answer.
because he did learn that
Yeah.
since it was Love is Blind. But yeah, he actually started the question going into things about himself, and my dad actually stops him, and he's like, "I'm gonna stop you right there. That's what you've learned about yourself. What have you learned about Ashley?"
That's
And
correct.
that's when I think he kinda, like, stumbles a little bit. He's like, "Ooh, this guy's good."
Yeah.
And he answered with, "She's a great insurance agent." And I was like, "Well, I'm not." So that's how it set the mood. And then my dad was like, "Oh, so you know nothing about her."
Right. Well, I think that's the part that really directly relates to me. First of all, I had a little PTSD sitting, like, watching this, thinking about every deposition I've ever been a part of. Um, but it was this, like, listening to omission. I know, Ashley, you talked about timeline a lot, listening to words that are qualifiers a lot. Like, I think there was a question where you asked about working in finance, but you had to, like, drill down 2 or 3 different questions further to understand what does that actually mean? So any thoughts there when you're listening to somebody's answer, are there words or areas that trigger for you, like, "I need to dig a little bit deeper into that statement?"
Yeah, I think the one you're referring to is he was talking about what he studied in college, I think. And he said he did this and then he went into finance. And I said, "So you," and I don't remember, 'cause it's been a while since I've seen the episode, or relived this, but, I said, "You majored in finance? How did that go, honey?"
Well, he majored in communications, and then he went into finance, and I think there was a little confusion with that.
Yeah.
And
So it was evasive, sorta. He was giving himself credit for something. It seemed like at the time that he was trying to fluff himself up a little bit. I don't know what made me dig down a little bit on that, but just something in the way his body language or the tone or how he answered it, I just didn't believe, or I wanted to know more. I'm an inquisitive guy. I
Sure.
like to ask questions.
Yeah. There's a couple things that you did there that, like, especially what you just said, that just triggered a few other thoughts. When you mentioned at one time, you said, I think your eyes moved down to the right or the left or whatever you said. And what I thought
Yeah, I
was
said
funny.
down and to the left.
Yeah, but what's funny is not even whether that right or wrong is, and he argued it. And I thought that was more interesting.
Exactly. That's the whole point of that, to, knock him off the track just a second, get him off script. He felt comfortable, and I wanted to put him on the spot a little bit just to see how he handled that. That's it. So, it's like I said at the outset, everybody's got a little different body language. Maybe I'm left-handed and I look down and right, or I look sideways or up or I close my eyes. Everybody's got their own little body language thing. And his just it just didn't jive, it just
Yeah.
didn't match up with what I was hearing.
What's great right now is, so because I can see both of you. Ashley's, like, looking with this admiration of, like, "Yeah, look at dad's got it." But during the dinner, I'm curious, Ashley, like, there was a few times where you could see your face. Either either you knew Alex got something completely wrong, or you could feel where dad was going. What's going through your mind as you're sitting there?
it's probably a little bit of both, to be honest, because I could hear it in Alex's answers. I was like, my dad's not. I know how my dad wants questions answered, and I was
Right.
probably thinking like, that's not how he wants that answered. It's just
Right.
like ingrained in my brain. Like, my dad, he always said like, don't make me ask the next question. And unfortunately, with Alex, you have to ask many more questions, and my dad always he always graded us. It was so funny. He'd be like, "That was a C minus answer or something." And
That's
every time Alex would answer something, I'm like, C minus. And then I would look at my dad, I'm like, he's gonna have more questions. And I
that's
just know they're
great.
coming. And it's just funny to
Yeah,
kind not be on the outside, but to see him go to work in
yeah.
this crazy environment. It was fun.
One of the ways that you questioned is kind of this funnel approach, right? You asked, like, maybe an open-ended question where somebody can either choose to give you verifiable details and information, or be fluffy, which I think we know where this one ended. But then you continue to probe further, right? So I think, like, the finance one is a good example. And then you asked a follow-up, which is a little more detailed, where I think you talked about day trading. And you asked, well, how many how many days are you, or when are you day trading? And then it was, well, what are you day trading? And then you talked about crypto. And then you eventually asked this like a closed ended question. So, like for people who are listening, this whole funnel approach was to give some, I'm assuming, I want your feedback on this, but you're giving somebody a chance to free narrative an answer to gauge information. And then you drill down when maybe you felt like there was some untruthfulness. And I loved when he gave the value of crypto, which was like 20 or 30
$100,000.
value higher. Yeah. And that's when I saw Ashley's face where she's like, uh-oh, I think he got him. But did that concept make sense? Do you feel like that's what was happening in the line of
It's
questioning?
absolutely what was happening there. When I was in law school, they always talked about your professors would, take you out on a branch and then saw it off. And that's exactly, that's the training that we receive as attorneys. People that go to trial. I mean, if you're a tax attorney, you may not get that same
Right.
experience, but going to trial, listening to other attorneys cross-examine or examine witnesses, you learn how to lead them out on the branch and then cut it out from under them.
Were you enjoying this process during dinner?
Oh my Lord, I enjoyed the whole dinner. This dinner was not a short dinner. I mean, you look at it on Netflix and they give 5 minutes or whatever to our dinner. That dinner was 2 or 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think they showed the easy stuff.
Ashley, what was it like after, like I'm assuming you and Alex left separately together, like the two of you left together. Did he have any, or no? Do you remember?
So we actually, I think we went to
The country club.
yeah.
The
Okay.
barn was a restaurant at this country club we're members at, and we went back to the main country club, to the bar,
Yeah.
restaurant area, and we hung out there for another hour, hour and a half.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Alex was at one end and I was at the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
He does well though. Like
Yeah.
he says it. Like he's very polished. He is very put together. He knows how to answer questions, but I think he met his match.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he met his match. He just, I don't know if he's used to people listening to him.
Yeah. I think you allowed him to be his true self.
Yes, I do too.
I think that's exactly what that
I
was.
mean, that's what the job of an attorney is, really, right?
Sure.
Let's get to the truth.
Yeah.
I mean,
Was there a debrief then, either between like the two of you without Alex off camera, or then Ashley with you and Alex? Like, did he ever acknowledge, like, I don't feel like that went well. I'm not sure if Dad likes me. Was there any
It's actually
acknowledge?
really funny because Alex will tell you it went really well. And then, like, you see later on him talking with his buddies, or they saw, his mom at the wedding, and it does not appear that it went as well as maybe Alex was saying it did. So it is kind of funny. I mean, he tries to act very confident. He tells the rest of the guys on the show, like, oh, well. And I mean, it went well. Like, it was a fun dinner,
well,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it wasn't, he wasn't honest.
Yeah. Did the two of you guys debrief afterwards off camera? Or was it pretty apparent enough during the conversation that you kind of knew where this was?
I don't think we had time to debrief because at that point in time, you were living in Columbus, right?
Yeah.
So, my wife and our son, came home, and they went to either Columbus or her apartment in Cleveland, and that was it until, I don't know, sometime later.
Yeah.
We really haven't spoken too much about that event. We didn't know what was gonna be aired. We didn't know how it was gonna be edited, so there really wasn't much to talk about other
Yeah.
than for me saying, "Yeah, that was fun. That might have been the best deposition I've ever taken in my life,"
Sure.
and that's why it was fun. Uh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
really no real discussion afterwards.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit at the club, but it was really just like we had a fun time. Like, it just goes back to what he says. Like, he taught me how to make a decision. So he's
Yeah.
going to trust me. And like I said, my army of support will be there at the altar with me with whatever answer I had. So,
Yeah, I think that's great. Paul, you had one other quote I really liked. He said, "I'm not saying he's a bad person, but I don't think honesty is his strength." I mean, that's beautiful. Like that should be
Thank you.
carved into stone somewhere. Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have you
I
used
truly
that
believe
before, or
that.
that just came out fluid right on?
No, that was right in the moment. So I didn't know that was an interview they did after the dinner. They took me down to a secluded part of the restaurant. I didn't know that was gonna happen,
Yeah.
and they were asking me some questions, and, I really don't even remember saying it. I thought I said something different.
Yeah.
I also
Again, it
thought
was a 2-hour dinner and there were drinks, so
Uh,
I thought I was kinda laying down on the couch at that
yeah.
point in time,
you were.
answering their question. But yeah, it just came out as the truth. You know, and I like to tell the truth. It's
Yeah.
painful sometimes.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so the other question you asked them that this one, I thought it was interesting, but you said, "Convince me that you're real."
Yep.
Um, and I think the first thing you said, maybe you said, "I love your daughter," something like that, and you said, "No, that's not it." What
Yeah.
what are you looking for there?
Who knows?
Okay.
Not that. Not that.
It's
You know,
kinda like I was picturing the classic, like, "Sell me this pen" question where there's not necessarily a scripted right answer. It's kinda what I
correct.
felt from that, but I didn't know if you had a like, "Here's the gold mine that I'm looking for," in response to that.
No. No, if he would have given something other than, "Oh, I'm in love with your daughter," which I don't know, that doesn't tell me much, does
Right.
it?
What
And
do you love about her?
it was just an answer I didn't buy for the question. It's like the kid going in for the job interview and, the interviewer asks them, you know, "Why are you good for this job?" And they start reciting their resume. It's like, "I already know this is the resume. I already see this. Tell me something I don't know."
Sure.
I mean, you should love my daughter. That's not telling me that you're real.
Yeah, that's fair. So if you had people listening to watching the show or just even in their personal or professional lives need to be maybe either set better boundaries or ask better questions and dig a little bit deeper, any kind of high level advice from either of you on being able to do that or what that mindset is like to be able to have the confidence maybe to ask that extra question?
Well, first of all, no one ever lost their voice from listening, right? So listen better. Listen better, be open-minded about it. Don't come in with a preconceived answer because to most questions that you're asking about, there's a lot of good answers. And, just listen better. I think that's the real key to communication.
I like that. I think being a lot what I thought was interesting on this whole blind concept is we talk a lot about active listening, where people are nodding their head and uh-huh, uh-huh. But you've, I'm sure, both been there. I'm sure you, Paul, have nodded your head when a judge is talking. You don't even remember half of what he or she said. But like we can be active listening, but we're not really absorbing anything. And so I thought it was interesting, like in the pods, you can't show that at all, right? Like, so is there a way verbally to be a better listener, if that makes any sense? Like, is there a way to demonstrate listening without somebody seeing you?
Man, that's a good question. I don't know.
I guess, like, if you not recite whatever that person said, but if you say, like, "Am I understanding this correct? Here is what you said," or "This is how I'm perceiving that. Is what it would you agree with that?" And then they can, rebuttal or something like that. That's like having that conversation where you feel safe, like, "This is what I'm perceiving, what you're saying. Is that correct, or are you feeling a different way?" I think that's a way you can do it when there's a wall between you. Otherwise, you're just gonna be sitting there silent.
Yeah, that's a technique. When someone asks you a question, you can say, "If I understand you right, this is what you're asking," and that shows that you're listening a little bit, and it makes sure you're understanding the question well. And maybe that's a technique people could pick up on.
Sure.
Yeah, and I
And I think, yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
I was just gonna say, I think, like, people are like, "Oh, communication is so important in your relationships," and it is, but the comprehension of it is even more important because he can say something till he's blue in the face to me, and I'm either gonna listen or not, but if he says it in a way that I will better understand it, or if he shows me a different way, that's when you learn and you comprehend how the other person is feeling or what they're trying to portray in their message, and I think that's kind of overlooked a little bit. Communication is important, but sometimes, there's over communicators and I don't know what you're saying, but you're saying a lot of words, and that's kind of how Alex was.
Yeah, I think that's great because it does a few things. From the legal standpoint, it helps you further lock somebody into the story they just said, right? They can't say you misheard me because you're repeating it and they're confirming.
Yep.
Um, it definitely shows you're an engaged listener because, like, if you repeat something I said, then I know that you were clearly listening to me. And the other part that I think is kind of interesting is when somebody does it wrong, like maybe there's some examples in the show of you sharing how you feel about a certain thing and somebody tries to restate or shape what you just said, and they don't do it accurately, I think we call that gaslighting, I believe, would be the other way. So I
Yeah,
think
there's probably a few examples in the show, just a couple
yeah, I think
sprinkled in.
that's a good take, yeah. So, Paul, are you famous on the golf course now that people are seeing you on Netflix? Or, like, what has this done for your media career since the show aired?
Is there such a thing as a media career? I don't know. I'm old school. However, my friends have had a good time with it. I
Yeah.
think my friends have had a better time with it than I have,
That's not
frankly.
true. That is not true.
Yes, it is.
Sure.
When you've watched back the clips, and both of you, but is there anything you wish like, "Hey, I wish I woulda handled that differently," or, "I missed this here?" Not the overarching, like, what occurred, but just those special moments or questions that you wish you would've inserted that you didn't?
I can't think of any for me. I mean, I thought it went well for me.
Yeah.
It was funny to me. I found it more humorous than anything else.
Yeah.
I thought they did a really nice job of editing the entire show, first of all, to make Ashley look like a nice person, middle America, just like she is. She has feelings like everybody else. And they made our family look good. So I was grateful for that, for Netflix doing that. And I thought they did a nice job of editing my section as
Yeah.
a little selfish moment here, because I thought it was funny and that's the way it was portrayed to me.
Did either of you have a fear? I mean, so my TV appearances have been very short, and I've done, like, some documentary they're all been true crime type stuff, but even if I'm on for, like, 2 minutes before it aired, I'm, like, apprehensive to let anybody watch it because you never know what they clipped and what it's gonna look like. Did either of you have that fear before? Because 'Cause I'm assuming the first time you
Of
saw it was
course,
when it
Heck
aired on
yes.
Netflix. Yeah,
of course. Someone else is taking your 2-hour dinner, for instance, and they're editing it in such a fashion that they want to portray something. And it might not be what is in my best interest in the
right.
way they portray it. Because in those types of shows, the bad guy is as important as the good guy. And I didn't know how they were going to portray it, and I was fine with that. But yes, there was anxiousness beforehand, and as soon as it was over, I was doing cartwheels.
Yeah. So for each of you, as we'll wrap up here in a couple minutes, do you feel Paul, do you feel like that Netflix, we as the, viewers were able to see Ashley as who she really is, and Ashley do the same thing for Paul? Like, were you represented? Is this who you are day to day that we saw streaming on our TVs in our living rooms?
I think generally I would 100% agree they portrayed Ashley as she is. I can't help it that she asks a lot of questions. You can blame me for that. But she wants to know. She genuinely has an interest in knowing who you are. That's why she's asking the questions. When you stop asking questions, you don't care what that other person has to say or who they are or whatever. So yeah, I think they did a very good job portraying Ashley as the person I know.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to questions, like, people do need to keep in mind, like, I'm marrying this person. If I have unanswered questions, I'm gonna ask them, as any person should, whether you've been dating 2 weeks or 20 years. Like, you should know everything that you need to know about that person and have confidence in those answers. So, yeah, some people probably think she asks way too many questions, like, whatever, but that's gonna be my husband, so I have questions. For my dad, yeah, they portrayed him just as he is. He asks questions, he asks hard questions, and if you don't answer him right, he's grading you in his mind,
C
and
minus.
he's gonna continue to learn. I think that's the biggest thing about my dad is he's always learning, whether it's about people, if it's the news, he's always reading, he's always sending me articles. He always wants to learn. And he definitely wants to learn about the people in our lives. We want to know about them. We want to know what makes them tick. We want to know their passions. We want to know their past. Because for me, I'm very open about my past. And Alex has a very strange, unique past that I wanted to learn about, but it's hard to keep track of things. But past makes you who you are. And those things in the pods might not have been portrayed as well. I think I had a very like characterized person in the pods. And it kind of goes with the story is like, then he's not attracted to me. But, I want to learn about people and I have those morals. I have strong family values. I have stability. I'm ambitious. And that wasn't portrayed as much in the pods. But I think as it goes along, you kind of see that growth. And we talked about it, like me going into those old habits. And then at the end, it's like this big empowering moment into like, I deserve way, way better. And I think that's the story for me. So
I love that. Don't apologize for asking questions. I think that's I deal with the same problem. I was talking to Paul about this yesterday. Like I deal with the same thing as n- because of how I grew up and what my profession is. I'm asking too many questions all the time, so I'm always being accused of interrogating everybody. But especially in what you just experienced, you're doing it in such a reduced amount of time. Like you need to get that information in a short amount. This is not a 2 to 3 year relationship where you're learning organically. You kind of had to force that information a little bit.
yeah, and that's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd be the first to admit it doesn't matter how long you date. You know, people that meet for the first time fall in love right away. They have successful marriages. People that have lived together for 10 years, they end up getting divorced, sooner than anybody. And, this is such a rushed process that they put these people through. Um, I I wanted to know who this guy was.
Yeah.
You know, I explained Alex though. If I had finished a round of golf with him, went in and had a drink with him, he'd be fine. Sitting with the guys, he's a guy's guy, but he was not the guy for my little girl,
I'd
who's
also
now a big girl.
I'd also recommend checking the scorecard afterwards just
Oh,
to make
mm.
sure it's accurate. I would think those eights would be turning into
Got like
threes.
niners on there. Like, what?
Yeah.
A niner?
Yeah.
Neither.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was actually picturing Paul, like so downstairs, I work on some cases. I've got like the whiteboard where you're like putting circles and dots and timelines. That's what I'm picturing you were doing before this dinner, that you had like you had the ropes tied, you had like a CSI
That's what I
thing
was doing the
going.
whole time. I was trying to keep it straight, and I felt like I was gaslighting myself at times. I was like, "I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm even
Yeah.
saying." I'd tell my friends it back, and I'm like, "Does that make sense?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"No." And I'm like, "Okay."
you have
Just
to
making
keep in
sure.
mind that during the beginning of this process, they're without their phones.
Right.
They are without their computers. She had no way of reaching out to me to say, "Hey, could you check up on this guy?" So I went into the dinner really prepared, but not prepared. I knew what I was going to do. When she says, "Dad, be dad," I knew the tone and tenor
Right.
of, I was going to question him like I would someone on the stand.
Right.
Um, but there was no prep to be done. I had no idea who this guy was or anything. I met him for the first time right there with Ashley, and um,
Even if you wanna do background information on him, it's like, "What's his name?" I'm like, "I don't
Right.
know. I don't know what his name
Right.
is. I don't know where he lives."
And what state are you running it in? Because it seemed to be
Literally.
everything. So,
I'm
yeah,
just the safe house.
yeah.
I'm good enough to. I can think on my feet once in a while, quickly enough to handle a 33-year-old trying to, get in my good graces.
Day trader. Yeah.
Day trader.
Ashley, did you hang on to your notebook? Like these
Yeah.
famous notebooks so is that like in a vault somewhere to look back on someday, or do you just
I It's funny that you bring that up because I kept mine. I think most people keep theirs, and I thought it was so strange when we got back to living together. He actually mentioned that he threw his away, and I was like,
Hmm,
"What?" I was like, "This is like a memory. This is
sure.
no one else has this." And he's like, "Yeah, on one of the other seasons, a girl read through it and got jealous." And I was like, "I am not the jealous type." And I've said it before. I was like, "I'm not the jealous type. I'm the honest type. And if you tell me things and I believe you, that's that." But that I was like, "What were you writing in this journal that you felt like you had to throw it away?"
He didn't write a thing.
Yeah.
Trust
It's
me.
like, "I just like
Right.
your voice."
If he wrote anything, I'll be the first one to admit I was wrong.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
Has there
He
been
was
any
smarter than everybody else. You could just
Yeah.
tell that he thought he was smarter than he was smooth. He was gonna smooth me at that dinner, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like the more people talk, the less they feel like you can interrupt with questions, and so
That's
it
what
makes it go better.
I told him that, and it's again, he's this magician. He says all these words, he talks in circles, and we're both the people that are like, "Land the plane," but he does that, and it's to like distract us from what he's really doing, and he just didn't work on him, on the
Yeah.
star.
Have,
"Hey, Dad, look over here.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm telling you this over here."
Yeah.
Realistically, and like all these like buzzwords to make you like to
Yeah.
be honest, like you shouldn't have to say to be honest, you should just be honest.
To be honest, realistically, traditionally,
Grammatically,
my goodness, yeah. I was starting to take notes. I'm gonna save my
fluidity.
notebook from watching this show. My goodness.
Nomadic.
Oh, you're funny.
You
And
guys
that
have
was
been so
the other
great.
thing was he kept saying like he has this nomadic lifestyle, but in the pods he told me like let's settle down, like And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what I want. And then all of a sudden he's like, I want to move and like do all these things, be
Yeah.
fluid. I'm like, what?
I did think it was interesting. Now that you say that, just reminded me of this too. There was a lot of subtle, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, maybe assumptions or demands without asking you. Like relocating seemed like it was, this is what you're going to do without you really maybe had input there. And I thought there's the one clip of you talking about your job and your career and what you were trying to figure out. And he basically made up his mind already on the future. But I would thought was from my perspective, from a communication standpoint, there's just subtle language changes there. There's a big difference between asking a question or doing something together versus like an assumptive, this is what's going to happen. Did you feel that throughout?
Yeah, I think you can kind of sense my like tone change in that moment because he's like, I got a job in the 5 minutes we've been home. And I was like, I was almost insulted because I
Yeah.
was like, I have this amazing, stable career that I'm trying to maintain. I love the company that I work for. And he has the audacity to really be like, I got this soccer coaching contract. And I'm like, for what? I mean,
Pee-wee.
you're a goalie, like, I get it, you have a passion for that, you're also a day trader, which you day trade things I don't understand, but I was like, "That is so." I'm telling you, I'm going to do what I can to talk to my boss literally tomorrow. It's not even, like, next month, and I'm like, "I've been home for 5 minutes," and he's like, "I've already gotten a job." And I'm like, "Okay, you're better than me, you're the breadwinner." Like, I don't wanna talk about it anymore.
Well, to
Yeah.
get the house in Florida, the safe house in Dubai, and
No, New
whatever else.
Zealand.
What's that?
New
New
Zealand.
Oh, I'm
Zealand. Yeah, I
sorry,
wrote
New
that down. I
Zealand.
was trying to figure out what was your, I asked Ashley about that earlier. Did you have a take on that when was the first time you heard that was when it was aired?
Yes. And,
W-
like, time stopped. Me and my friend looked at each other, we were like, "What?" And we, like, reversed a couple times. We're like, "Whoa."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Where did that come from?" Because we had never talked about that.
Yeah, I don't
And
even
also, you're
understand.
telling everyone where your safe house is. It's a danger house now.
Not that
Like,
safe. Sure.
everyone knows where it's at.
Sure. Sorry, Paul, are you and Alex going out golfing nowadays, or what's the interaction been like since?
I invited him over a couple of times, have a couple of drinks, just to, bury the hatchet.
Yeah. Last question for each of you. Just well, I guess one before the last question. Ashley, if you had friends that said, "Hey, I got offered to be on the show," what would you tell them to do it? Is it worth
Oh,
it
yeah.
for them? Yeah.
Yes. I think, and he's even told me coming out of this show, I just came out way more confident. I just saw the growth. It's actually really nice for me to be able to look back and be like, this is the moment that I grew. This is the moment that I realized, like, I will no longer accept the bare minimum. I will no longer accept lies, red flags. I deserve better. And it's just beautiful. I would recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was going in open to love, to friendships, to growing on my own. And I think I kind of got a little bit of all of them.
Yeah, and that's great. We try to end every episode, so it's called Truth Be Told, with like one truth. So maybe one kind of takeaway that you want people to either learn from your experience or your career. So it could be about your experience on the show, your experience in dating, or just like your personal growth throughout the process. But either of you, because I know Paul, you've got plenty of experience, but Ashley already said you're always learning. So
Mhm.
um, any last kind of advice or truth that you want to make sure people took away from, as fun as this was, but in the reality of it, how they can be better people from this experience?
Well, I think what I would tell to people is be yourself, be true to yourself. Don't be afraid. The younger generation, they've grown up with the media, social media, and everything. They're worried about how they're going to look and how they're going to sound, clicks and likes and whatnot. Just be true to yourself. And I think Ashley was very true to herself when she did this show. This is why she had a good experience. This is why she comes out the other end stronger than she went in. She knows herself better now. She was true to herself. She was true to us, true to her upbringing. And I think she has no fear now. She is a brave woman, strong woman now.
I love
Yeah, I
that.
think for me too, it's just don't be afraid to ask the questions and know your worth. Like, take time because for a long time I didn't. I didn't really take into account like how important my values and my family are, and figure out what your non-negotiables are. Ask the hard questions. Know your worth, and just don't stand for anything less. I think I have this moment when I'm at the altar, and I'm just like, I will no longer stand for this. And I think it's very empowering for women to see you can say no at any time. Whether you've been with this person 2 weeks, 20 years, you can literally say no on your wedding day. And I hope that message kind of gets to the women out there, even the men who need to know, like, you don't have to settle. You don't need to date potential. You don't need to change them, because most likely you're not going to change them anyways. But just know your worth and don't stand for anything less.
I love that.
I
Great
want to
message.
add an addendum to what she
Here we
just
go.
said here.
This is my
And
life.
an A.
C
Yes,
minus.
Paul,
C
you
minus
have the
answer.
floor.
That's an A- answer.
You have the
Look,
floor.
if you're gonna ask the tough questions, don't be afraid of the tough answer.
I think
You know,
that's-
I think
yeah.
that's what you got to be ready for.
Yeah.
I think you must be ready for the tough answer too.
Yeah, but that's
I
a good
approve.
point. Yeah, we give you an A, flat A
Yeah.
on the
A
response.
minus.
But yeah, no, that's a good point. The episode, our second episode this season we released was an online dating coach, and she made the comment that people are afraid to ask the tough question because they don't want the answer, and it could be like the civil
Interesting.
She's
relationship or
like,
whatever.
she
So
sounds smart.
see, Paul, yeah, so
That's
yeah,
exactly what I thought.
she should have credited you. I'll make sure I cite you in her
Whatever.
response
I
on-
should be crediting her.
yeah. No,
If
you
she's
guys
going to
done
say
great.
stuff like that, she's well worth whatever advice she's giving.
Yeah, I think I agree. You guys are awesome. Thank you for spending. I know you're probably getting Ashley, especially getting bombarded, I'm sure, with requests for stuff like this. So, Paul, thanks for being my handler.
You're welcome.
In the
No, we
process.
appreciate it.
This is really an honor for us, believe it or not. You're big time. This was fun for us. This is just another moment for us to grow as a
Yeah.
family, as a daughter and a father.
I love that.
Don't stop learning. Don't stop growing.
Yeah,
I
that was
like
the best
that.
part about this whole thing. I got to bring them in and do it with me. So we always have those special moments together. So thank you for this.
That's
And like I
fun.
said, we've had all the drama, the fun ones, but this one's like serious. And I hope people do understand, like, you got to ask the questions, you got to read the body language, you got to trust your gut. So we were really excited for this one.
No, thanks for coming. And it's nice to see your authentic selves, because there's no editing from Netflix unless Netflix wants to give me a budget. This is there. People are going to see what they just saw. But it's nice to see like this is authentic and genuine, and what we saw is what we get. And you guys have been awesome. So we just got to make sure you're not Browns fans. We'll convert you to Bills fans here in the next few months.
I'm a Allen fan. How about
Okay.
that?
That's fine.
Can I go that far?
Yeah. That's all right. We'll come down and go golfing in Cleveland sometime soon. And
Let's do it.
I love that.
I'll
Well,
make sure he
thanks.
clears the schedule for
Yes,
you.
that's all right.
I'm gonna let her golf with us too.
Get the agent. We'll allow it. Yes, that's fine. You can both beat me. Well, thank you guys for joining, and thank you all for listening to this episode of Truth Be Told.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To help more listeners find our show, please provide us a rating, give us a follow, and share this episode with your colleagues. For the latest news and to engage with our guests, follow Truth Be Told on your favorite social media apps. And don't forget, we are available on all major platforms, including Apple, Spotify, and watch a video of this episode on YouTube. On behalf of our guests and valued sponsors, thanks again for listening to this episode of Truth Be Told.